Hi, this is Tootie Tagerly, live from San Francisco on a very unseasonably hot day after the Labor Day weekend. I'm going to share today how to prep for big events and attempt to depressurize them, which is lessons from my first TEDx talk, which I gave last Friday in New York. And wanted to share this because so much happened and it was a fantastic learning experience. So, my TEDx talk was called What's the Problem with Gaslighting? Or How Do We Gaslight Ourselves? How to Make Space Within Hustle Culture. Clearly, I have the talk title down perfectly because that wasn't part of the memorization. But I'm going to share what I did, what worked, and also the stuff that didn't work so much. Um, so TEDx was really hard for me. I am normally a pretty freewheeling, spontaneous speaker. I can have some slides, but then I have like the spaces and gaps in between to improvise a little bit, which is absolutely impossible when you have to work within a time constraint of TEDx talks being between maybe 12 to 15 minutes, but you can't go beyond the 18 minutes. So it was a different scenario. It was a higher pressure big event where the content needed to be memorized and on point so that you would hit all the cues and be tight and sharp and stay within the time limits. And that was something that was really, really hard for me. So let me share 5 things. The first tip of how to prep for big events is to ask for help. One of the things I'm most grateful for, kind of the early stages where I was crafting the talk outline and the narrative, is that I did a recording of myself walking through the content outline and put out a call on social media for dear friends to watch and comment. I got the best early feedback and advice from that, and I made substantial changes to the content based on that. Really grateful for all the people who watched and gave feedback. They did things like really tell me what parts of the story didn't make sense. They told me what they responded to that was the most interesting and engaging. And that first kind of more reading of the content was super wonderful. The second part where I got a ton of help is that I had a coach. I People laugh at me because I have an awful lot of coaches, but Nathan Gold is an amazing, amazing speaking coach. I had the privilege of working with him when he was hired by a conference I was speaking at last year, and he gave me such great feedback that I worked with him again for this TEDx. And again, he helped when I first went to him. My talk was running about 16, 17 minutes. After a first listen, he helped me shorten it to 12 minutes. Got all the same gist of it, but kind of got rid of all the filler, the stuff that wasn't as impactful to make it crisper. And then really helpful, you'll see a little later in terms of mindset and preparation. So that's the first step, ask for help. The second is, especially for something like this, you got to put in the work. Um, I think I had the full kind of nailed down content slide story probably about a week and a half before the actual talk. If I was to do it again, it would probably be 3 weeks before. It would be a better timeline. But I am kind of a procrastinator, and I think there's the actual memorization of it so that you make sure that you're crisp and you hit it. I found that when I didn't memorize it, when I told my stories and was more emotional and freewheeling, it was great, but it just took longer time. And the format of a TEDx talk, as many of you know from watching it online, is that it does have to be really crisp because the majority of it is for videos afterwards. And if you're scrolling around on on your mobile phone or on your desktop, if a talk isn't engaging and hold your attention, people are going to click away. So it's a very different context than giving a live talk, say at a conference. So that was the memorization, which took in a lot of work. I think my speaking coach's estimate is you're gonna put in probably an hour for the full memorization for every minute of content. And I definitely did that. Um, all right, so this is the one that I have the hardest problem with because I was raised by an Asian tiger mom. I'm good with structure and rigor and rigidity. I know how to do that. It's hard for me to balance the both of having the structure, but also have the space to lighten up, loosen up, and have fun within it. Here's some things that really helped me. helps me to breathe, visualize. Oh, breathing is key, pauses in breathing, which really lightens you up and gets enough oxygen so that you don't sound too breathy. But also having a song. My theme song that I use to pump me up is Alicia Keys. It's the she's just a girl and she's on fire, all that, which my kids laugh at, but that's what I use to kind of chill me out. And I was having a blast just dancing down the aisles before with my headphones in, listening and grooving out. And I think part of that is whatever tricks, whatever it takes to help you chill, loosen out. I had my best friend beside me, so it was really good to like have someone there as support. But this is really hard because you have these big events, you have these big goals. They really matter. I think a lot of the zenness of it is to create and have these big goals, but also be able to have the non-attachment in Buddhism to be like, yeah, it's okay. Things will happen. So this is one of the hardest ones for me. And then because I have kind of a controller saboteur, I want things to go in a certain way. I want things to be memorized. It's hard to know what to do when things go wrong. There were some, let's just say, tech issues throughout. One tip that I would give to any TEDx speakers out there, it's probably safer to go no slides. And even if you have slides, don't rely on them. Don't rely on speaker notes because things can go wrong. I debriefed with another fellow speaker at the event, and when his slides didn't come up at the beginning, he actually stopped the whole thing and said, "Hey, can we get my slides up, please?" Which was a wonderful please tip, which I will do next time. Because remember, again, it depends on the context. In this particular context, there was a live audience, but it was limited to 100 people. So it's much less about the actual speech, which is unlike most of other speaking engagements. And it's much more about like the video quality and what's going to appear online later. So slides didn't come, slides came, they disappeared. I misspoke. I had some stutters. It was hard. It was hard. And the only thing to do with it is you just keep going. And then finally, I think probably the biggest lesson is that been in this kind of personal development space for a while, and I'm super familiar with my own self-critics. I have a very strong judge who I call the self-flagellator. It's all those voices running through your head of, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have had my memorization down better, I should have been able to do it without the slides, I should have, stopped them. All these shouldas, wouldas, and honestly, it's simply noticing that it is a self-critic and there might be the meta hate too, which is like, oh, I shouldn't be hating on myself like that. But it's all kind of part of the process. It's funny, I sent an email to my coach, probably like a 4 or 5 line email right after. It was like, this was pretty good, but it really wasn't perfect. Here's some stuff that happened. Thank you so much for all your help. And he sent me like a 2-page email back saying, what are you doing? And I think this was all caps. What are you doing? You just had your first TEDx talk and it was amazing because, it was. After the first minute, I was in the groove, I was energetic, but after the first minute, and he really just called me out on gaslighting myself, if you will, paying attention to the negative, the rumination, rather than celebrating the joy of completion and celebrating the joy of learning. So that's it for today. Some lessons for how to prep for big events and depressurize. In the beginning, ask for help, put in the work. Most important in the during, lighten up, loosen up, have fun. I know this is really hard advice to follow. Figure out what works for you. And then know that you might have to improvise because things are going to go wrong. And when you do that, try not to hate on yourself too much because if you had a big event, you put yourself out there. You did it. So I'm super grateful, super excited. And don't worry, when the video comes out, it will be shared widely, and I hope that you watch it. That's it for today. Thank you so much.